Hey, it's Ali Drew for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by Ben Davison, who is here with Pat McCormack this week. He's making his second outing as a pro on Saturday. How excited are you about this second outing? We didn't see much in the first, but what are you expecting from this Saturday?
We want to see Pat practice development, work on things in there that we've been working on, gain experience, and that's the main thing that we want to see from Pat at this point in his career. It's all about development for him to be able to fulfil the potential that we feel he has.
Since his pro debut, you've had him for like a sort of about 4 months extra now in the gym. How much is he developing and changing now you've had him that little bit extra time?
Yeah, he's an extremely fast learner, obviously a huge amateur pedigree, but obviously it's a different game, the professional ranks, and he's taken to it like a duck to water. He's great IQ, really understands the philosophy that we push, and it's a career that we're very, very, very excited for.
Are you expecting a little bit more time in the ring on Saturday, a few more rounds under his belt?
Hopefully. I know that a lot of people want to see people blowing these guys away, and they think that that's what everybody wants to see, and I'm sure that is what the public want to see, but again, going back to what I said earlier, it's about development, so time in the ring, under the lights, working on things, gaining experience. Those are the key things that we need from Pat at this point in his career.
He said yesterday he was looking for some more rounds under his belt this year and then push into titles next year, which in most people's pro career wouldn't be happening that quickly, but due to his amateur pedigree, he's looking to move quickly. Is that what you're expecting? Next year, within the next 12 months, he's going to be pushing for some titles? You
just really have to take it step by step with someone like Pat, because again, you know, he hasn't even come back to the corner yet in a professional fight. He hasn't even got a 3-minute round under his belt. So depending on what experiences he manages to get under his belt before the end of the year will determine, you know, what type of fights we'll be looking at next. Even to this, you know, I had a few opponents in mind for fight 3, fight 4, fight 5, but you can't, when you want to move somebody quickly, it has to be done step by step, because we need to see what experiences he's able to get before making those type of matchups, because the last thing you want to do is push somebody too fast. Although he can be moved quickly, it's got to be done smart as well.
Another fighter in your stable that is being talked about a lot at the moment is Lee Wood, and he's had a fantastic year. There's talk of him fighting Santa Cruz. The latest I think on that is that the split is going to be 75-25 towards Santa Cruz. So there's talk that Lee's not going to make the money that he deserves for that fight. What is the latest with that, and what is your stance on the fact that that would be the split for that fight?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and don't quite think it's fair on Lee, and he's worth more than that. So especially with the momentum and the fights that he's had, you know, a huge underdog win against Kanzu, a huge momentum he's built after the Condon fight, and such a huge fight, and what an entertaining fight that was. So we've got some options, and Eddie's having a look at those options, and no decisions have been made yet as to what will be Lee Wood's next step.
Because there has been a lot of links, especially through social media, with Josh Warrington. They both seemed keen for that fight. What do you make of that fight if it was to happen?
That's definitely one of the options, a huge fight. Josh Warrington, fantastic champion, big name, both got massive fan base behind them, big momentum with Lee Wood and Nottingham Forest, who just gone up into the Premier League. Everything's booming in Nottingham at the moment, especially again going back to the Lee Wood Michael Conlon fight. A lot of momentum built there. You know, those two fans coming together, I think that's a ginormous fight, with belts, without belts, it doesn't even matter. But you know, depending on the situation that happens with this WBA regular and WBA super, you know, it just gets made even bigger if that can be a unification clash. So yeah, we're weighing up options at the moment.
Obviously you'll say you expect Lee to win that fight, but how would you see the fight playing out?
I think, obviously I'm not going to go into details, but I think that, you know, the fans will get their money's worth. Two fantastic styles. Warrington's in great fights, Lee's in great fights. I think it's a great matchup. going to be a huge build-up and an exciting fight as well, in my opinion. So definitely one that myself, Lee, Josh, his team, and the boxing world, I think, are looking forward to and hoping that can happen.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be boring, that is for sure. Another fight that has been talked about, I know that Michael Conlin's keen for it, is the rematch there. Is that something that Lee would be interested in having?
Yeah, it's definitely an option out there. You know, what a fantastic fight of the year. You know, you have to see how these situations play out. For Lee, at a point in his career, I think that a unification clash would obviously be more of an intriguing, lucrative fight for him at the moment, something that he'd be looking for. How far can I push myself? But you never know. But Mickey's more than capable of going and winning the world title. He's a brilliant fighter. So if that was to happen, and say we had Mick, Lee, and Josh Warrington, all the three of those mixing it up, it's, you know, the featherweight division's definitely thriving at the moment.
Yeah, it's the division that was being talked about the most was super lightweight, which obviously I'll ask you about in a minute. But the featherweight one is getting just as much coverage, and the fighters in Britain especially are super exciting, and it's almost taken over. Yes,
Featherweight, super featherweight, lightweight, light welterweight, you know, they're all thriving at the moment. But domestically, I believe that Mick's more than capable, as I said earlier, of going on and winning a world title. And imagine that, you know, 3 of the featherweight world champions. Mick and Lee obviously with a bit of history. Josh and Lee with a football fan base thing, you know, and Mick with his Irish fan base as well. He gets huge support. Great atmosphere that night in Nottingham. You know, that would be phenomenal.
It's exciting. Okay, well, look into super lightweight. So Josh Taylor, obviously one of your fighters. The rematch with Jack Catterall seems to be on the cards. Josh has vacated in order to get this fight to happen. Where are we at with the process of this fight now?
It's being worked on, obviously. Like I said from the very start that Josh is pursuing that fight, and I think that's the mindset that he needs to have. That's a great mindset for him to be in, is the fact that he's pursuing that fight, almost like, you know, a challenger mentality, which I think Josh thrives under. I think when Josh is a heavy favourite, and it's the same for a lot of top fighters, when they're a heavy favourite, they don't have that same I don't know if motivation's the right word, but that same energy towards preparation, towards a fight. So I think he's in a great mindset for that fight. In terms of the details, you know, we're waiting to see, but Josh should be back in the gym next week and preparing for that fight, which is what he wants.
Was it a difficult decision for him to pursue that rematch? Bearing in mind Jack Catterall has not been made mandatory by any of the governing bodies, so then for Josh to vacate titles, has that been a difficult decision for him?
No, I don't think so. I think from the moment, you know, the fight was done, I think even in the hotel room after the fight, I think he was talking about he wants to do that fight again. And look, preparation wasn't the best. I think that nobody expected a prime Josh Taylor performance after that preparation, and it wasn't. I think that Josh just wants to clear the air, but obviously with the controversy, etc., it's made for a huge fight, and that's what these lads are in this sport for.
It will be good when that happens. Do you know whether it will be England, Scotland?
No, I don't know at the moment.
Okay, I won't push you any more on that. A former fighter of yours, we're not sure if he's even in retirement, out of retirement, we're not sure, but Tyson Fury, I don't know if he's officially retired, but there's rumour he's coming back out of retirement. I don't think he's even vacated, so I'm not sure if that's the case. But he's going to come back out of retirement and fight Thor, I think. He says he would come out of retirement to fight AJ if he beats Usyk. What do you think on this whole situation, the fact that he may have retired, may not? Do you think he actually has any intention of stopping in this sport?
I think, like, people are just looking into it like he's trying to be clever, he's trying to be this, he's trying to be that. I think he's just being honest. Like, he's not really overly interested in anything. If AJ wins, it's a fight that he would be willing to box again for. I'm sure, I know he'll still be training. I think people are just looking into it. He's not retired, he's this, he's that. Like, he's not in the mood to fight anymore. There's nobody that sparks his interest. He loves training. He's happy to do an exhibition, but if AJ wins, he's happy to do the AJ fight. Like, I think what he's saying is what it is. It's just people overcomplicating it, I think.
Well, for that AJ Usyk fight, we've got less than a month now for that rematch. How do you see that going?
Well, I couldn't tell you exactly how AJ is going to go about it, of course, but I think that he's capable of winning the fight. I'd like to see him win the fight. Whether he will win the fight, who knows? That's why there's so much money been put up for it. Draws so much interest. That's what everybody's going to tune in for. But I would love to see him do it so that we can eventually get this Tyson Fury Anthony Joshua fight, which would just be, you know, look at the size of Fury and Wyatt. Imagine what AJ and Tyson would be able to do. So yeah, I'd love to be able to see that. So nothing against Usyk, I'd just like to see Joshua be victorious in that so that we eventually get to see the Tyson AJ fight.
And before we finish, another fighter who I've seen on social media some clips, so I'm assuming that he's back in your gym training, Billy Joe Saunders. Is he making a return?
He's open to it. I think that he's back training, wants to get himself back healthy, happy. Routine, same thing as Tyson when Tyson initially retired. I think that routine is so important when they've boxed from, you know, 10, 11, even younger years old. They've always had routine in their life, and then all of a sudden you lose that when you've been successful. You don't have to get up and go to work. You know, you don't have any schedule, any routine. Very quickly it can become boring and almost sad not having a routine, not having anything to get up for. So no secret, he's put on some weight and he's back training, wants to drop the weight, get himself back into a good healthy place, and definitely interest in making a return. Whether he's made 100% decision of that's what he's going to do, I'm not too sure at the moment. I think it's just step by step.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that, but thanks for your time. Best of luck this week.